Teens are having sex. The Center for Disease Control did a study, and in 2011, 47.7% of high school students had had sex. 33.7% had had sex in the past 3 months. And 39.8% of those students didn't use a condom. They're having sex. And what's worse is they're not being safe. They need to be informed of the risks of unsafe sex and the methods of contraception they can use to protect themselves. When I was in high school, I didn't get sex education until I was a junior. And I took it and I got it in my human anatomy class, which was an elective. And that class wasn't even focused on sex education. This is a real problem. What are the risks of not informing students about sex? According to the CDC, in 2009, 8,300 people aged 13 through 24 had HIV infection. That's just in a survey of 40 states. Now ask yourselves, what about the other 10 states? What about the people that weren't surveyed? That number is in reality much higher. And why is it much higher? Because students are uninformed. In the article, Contraceptive Use and Pregnancy Risk Among High School Students, 1991 through 2003, by John Santelli, Brian Morrow, John Anderson, and Laura Duberstein Lindberg, in 2003, 46% of pregnancy risk was from not using contraceptives. The National Conference of State Legislatures article, State Policies on Sex Education in Schools, follows the same strain of thought. The U.S. has the highest rate of teen pregnancy in the industrialized world. Also, teen mothers are less likely to finish high school and are more likely to live in poverty. This means that their children are also living in poverty. I know a lot of you are thinking about the cons to sex education, such as backlash from parents. Parents don't want their kids exposed to sex in school. I know that. That's why it's important to explain the different kinds of policies available, such as abstinence only. In a Georgetown article, Sex Education in Schools by Kelly Percival and Emily Sharp, they state that New Mexico doesn't teach contraceptives in school. They teach abstinence only. This way, the students are getting information about the diseases that are out there and the dangers of unsafe sex, like unwanted pregnancies, without getting all the gory details. They're assured that the only way to truly be safe is to abstain from sex until marriage, or until you're in a monogamous relationship. I still encourage the teaching of contraceptives. I know parents are more leery, but as I said in my introduction, almost half of high school students are sexually active. Teens are having sex and they're getting diseases and they're getting pregnant. It's ruining lives that they're uninformed. That is a fact. I know there's also the issue of how do we teach sex education in school? Will there be embarrassment? Will there be laughing and giggling? Well, disruption in classes is easily avoidable. What I suggest is separating the classes by gender. Put the boys in one class and the girls in another. And you'll eliminate that whole mentality of what's he thinking about, what's she thinking about, do I look weird, am I sweating a little? All of those sort of things can be avoided just by this simple step. And it'll show them that this is a topic to be taken seriously. It's not something to joke about. There's also the issue of religious beliefs in the school system. Many religions condemn sex before marriage. And that's why I think we should really emphasize abstinence. You don't need to have sex. Ideally, you would never have to use a condom because you would know your partner and you would want to have babies, which is why people have sex. I would present this information in the same way as I would present information about drinking or drug abstinence. Having sex with someone that you don't know is safe is the same thing as putting a needle in your arm. I know this is a sensitive issue. I also know that not everyone is comfortable with children being taught about sex in school. However, sometimes comfort must be put aside for the benefit of the children. Because although they are young adults, teenagers are still growing up, and they need to learn everything they need to know about being an adult. In the same way that teens need to know how to handle money and drive responsibly, they need to know how to engage in sex safely. There are real risks present when teens are ignored of the dangers of unsafe sex. Whether your method is abstinence or contraceptives, any information can only help in protecting America's youth. The federal government is giving aid to schools around the country to teach sex education. It is up to the community to decide how that money is spent and what the benefit of that will be.